Welcome back to the secret sauce of downsizing, processing your emotions. So we're up to Module 3. Are you ready to get started with some science? So I won't overwhelm you. One of the things you should know when you are downsizing or right-sizing, you are in the midst of many, many decisions. And one of the things that we're going to talk about in this particular module is how the overwhelm of those emotional states can lead to brain fog. So I'm not going to overwhelm you with too much science, but just enough to have an understanding of what happens in your body as a result of stressful emotions, but also of renewing emotions and happy and positive emotions. So in your handout, you have a picture of the organ systems in your body and the effects of the two separate sides of what we call the autonomic nervous system. On one side, we have the sympathetic nervous system, which is what we might term the get up and go side of the autonomic nervous system. And on the other side, we have the rest and digest, or the more moving into relaxation side. So it's really important to know that at any given time, it's like you're on a teeter-totter. If you ever stood in the middle of a teeter-totter, that's really how we want our nervous system activity to feel, that there's movement, there's gentle movement. But as we know, there are things that happen, things that get said that may just catapult us into very high activation states. So let's look at what happens. First of all, we need to understand a little bit about the heart. The heart is where we register the emotions initially, and lots of information gets sent to the brain. This is some of the information from the Institute of Heart Math, because in the past we thought it was the brain facilitating everything. And really, it's the heart that sends far more information upward to the brain. And then the brain, from signaling, affects that nervous system. So once that nervous system is activated, then we also have hormones that are flooding our body. And when we're activated in the sympathetic get up and go side, or what we might also call the fight, flight, freeze side, adrenaline and cortisol are two of the chief hormones that are put out into our body. And what's important to know about that is that as a result of those two hormones, there can be a cascade of up to 1,400 biochemical changes in our body. That's a lot. So what do we do about that? Well, your homework from Module 2 is the first thing that you do. You start to recognize and acknowledge, where am I spending a lot of my time in my emotions? And what I'd like you to look back to when you have a moment is to see how many tick marks did you have on the depleting emotion side? How many tick marks did you have on the renewing emotions side? And really, in life, of course, it's wonderful to have more and more and more on that renewing side, but perhaps during these times of downsizing, knowing that there can be challenges and difficulties, at least looking for some balance. So if you did find that you had many more depleting emotions ticked off there, your body is staying in this state much longer of activated sympathetic nervous activity and the hormones associated with it. And what that sets up in that cascade is some of the hormonal shifts that make it harder to sleep, that make it harder to make decisions, and that are constantly increasing your blood sugar. So if you're eating a lot more sugar, it's because this activation is driving that. So don't worry, I will be giving you a couple of tools in the next module. But again, it's important to understand, and when you look at your handout, you'll be able to see that there are organ system effects in both those sides of nervous system activity. So again, tools will be coming, and the other hormones that I wanted to talk about in relationship to renewing emotions are DHEA and oxytocin. So those are the balancing hormones to cortisol and adrenaline. Oxytocin, of course, is that one you may have heard in relationship to mothers and that mother hug and love, that caring feeling of care and belonging. DHEA is actually called our anti-aging hormone. So you can raise that by being aware of your emotions and making choice. When you find yourself in a depleting emotion, you can actively make a choice to breathe, stop and breathe, and then at least come to neutral. Again, we'll be talking more about that in the tools module. So review what you did in module 2. Take a look at where you're spending more time in depleting or renewing, and keep tracking that if that's helpful for you. And just use that concept of you are in control of the choice you make once you recognize that you are in a depleting emotion, and you can begin to back out some of that impact and some of that activity that is going on in your nervous system when it's highly activated. And again, one of the things we want to understand about that is it also has a direct effect on our digestion, and so much of our stomach and so much of our brain is associated with neurotransmitters that are affecting our mood. So if you feel like you are struggling with mood issues, know also that this is part of what is happening if you're staying in highly activated states of irritation, of anger. So the good news is we are able to work with that. So first by discovery, and then in the next module, I'll see you there to teach you a couple of great tools. So thank you for being here.